Hey guys, it's Marlon from Impress Computers, and today we're going to talk about how we handle MSP over here at Impress. So what do you got for me, Andy?
We got a few questions for you. Can you just expand a little bit on your day-to-day operations, like when you come in the morning, what you do, how you get set up for the day, and just how your day goes?
All right. So basically, we have a couple of tools that we have to have open, including, we use IT Glue basically, ConnectWise for our managing tool software. So Control, which is Screen Connect to Remote In, LabTech, that's another piece of software, and Manage is the ticketing board. So that's where you get to see all the stuff that happens on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. What about what different type of monitoring tools do you use?
Sure. So for monitoring tools, we have LabTech. Now that monitoring tool basically has an integration with every single machine, meaning goes through a bunch of stuff, updates, scripts. You can send messages. You can remote into it through third party if the Screen Connect's not working, if you're having issues with it. But basically, LabTech is kind of like your information tool for every single workstation. It gives you the names, the servers. That's where you create the companies. If they have different locations, you can add each location within the company, and the list goes on. But it can go very, very deep. It can get very complex if you get too deep into it. There's a lot of things you can do, but that's basically what we use here at Impress. I know there's software out there, like Kaseya and we've seen some other MSP companies use that. Here at Impress, we use ConnectWise, basically.
Okay. So how long have you been on the MSP team?
It's been 2 years. It's going to be 3 years. It's been kind of a crazy ride. If you start from scratch and it's your first time coming into an MSP company, I will suggest to take it slow. Just take it easy. Don't get too crazy. Don't take it too hard on you, because it's going to be something new. You got to do baby steps like the turtle to get to a race and win the race, and learn. That's the most. I think that's the beauty of at least being an MSP.
Or in IT in general, because IT is always evolving.
Yeah. And over here, you get to see a lot of things. You're not specialized like a doctor. Like you graduate and then you end up doing your degree, becoming a surgeon or whatever, or whatever you end up doing. IT is like that. You can end up being a programmer. You can end up being in cybersecurity. You can end up being like us, MSP, which is technically a system administrator. If you're into like a corporate, then you get to see the different levels, the tiers.
Yeah.
And somebody or an automated tool that will assign a ticket for you. Here at Impress, we basically just cherry pick. Ticket comes into the board, and we go and clear it out as the day goes through. So yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. Let's talk about a little bit more about you. You started out in the front and whatnot as
in the sales department. Yeah, in the front shop. So basically, I came into Impress about five years ago, I think.
5 years?
Yeah, I moved into Texas from Florida, and I came in. There were a couple companies that we were looking at. My uncle helped me kind of find them out, and then we found Impress. Then I applied, started in the front shop. I wanted to be as a tech. And then there were no available positions at the time. So as time went by, MSP kept growing over here. And basically that's what kind of I shoot for, I basically went from the front sales, learning all of our software that we use back in the front for sales.
Yeah.
Then moved into the back as a technician. So basically we have a department that also dedicates to residential and commercial people that come in with computers that need to be fixed.
Yeah.
So I moved into that department. Then I moved into the MSP division, which is a little bit volatile, crazy.
But now MSP is kind of like the
sometimes
route where full steam.
Yeah, we're phasing away from the break fix area simply because everything's moving nowadays to the MSP, and that's where our company's heading to. We're growing towards that, so we just keep getting more clients, and it keeps getting pretty busy. So, hire more techs, assign different things to other people, and everything will continue to roll as is.
So if IT keeps evolving or whatnot, do do you do anything to sharpen your skills? Like for me, I have a home lab that I use. Like,
Yeah.
you do stuff like that too.
Yeah,
You
yeah, we
dabble?
do. Yeah. So at home, I used to have a QNAP that I used to play around with, and you can run like docs and stuff like that, and VMs. Right now, I haven't used it in a while, but every day we have to use lab tools. We have in the back like small servers and workstations that we use just to play around and things that we're not familiar with. If we have to learn it, we'll just go over those computers or VMs and get yourself wet, your feet wet into it. If it's something new, sometimes we may have to try things like recovering from the cloud. Yeah. If you have a backup, basically, which is spin it up in the cloud. If we have issues in the cloud, we'll use one of our VMs to download that machine basically here physically into one of our VMs and see if we can troubleshoot and get it back up and running. That's basically it. But yeah, it's an everyday thing, and it not only with our tools that we have, but basically every day on the ticket board, you get to see a bunch of different things. It can be different every single day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, is there any type of like best practices that companies, even if they don't have an MSP, they're still smaller, or if they do have an MSP, do you think there's any like best practice advice they can go off to, anything like that?
So first of all, backups. If you don't have a backup, you're gonna be dead in the water. If you have a computer or a server, or maybe a computer that you call a server that it's critical, or if it's your computer that's critical, make sure you have a backup. If you have a good recommendation would be have a local backup on an external drive, and make sure that you also have a backup up in the cloud. So that way, if the local backup actually fails, then the cloud backup is your second option, and vice versa. You kind of alternate between that. The second thing is, if you have a server, make sure you do password change or disabling the users. I've seen a lot of companies that we've taken over where their Active Directory are full with users that are no longer with the company. Yeah. And we've seen stories
that's a security risk.
It is, because we've seen stories where people hack into it.
The pipeline was a big issue of that.
There you go. Yeah, the pipeline it's a great example. You don't disable a user that is no longer with the company, and a hacker happens to have the credentials and log into it.
Even if they don't work here no more, he's still active from the directory.
But you see, the user was never disabled or taken off. Yeah, and that's a huge, point that anybody can get into if you obviously know that. Yeah, and that's what kind of happened there. So if you have users that are no longer with the company, take them off, please. Do yourself a favor and take them off. And backups too, guys. Please make sure you have your backups. If you have a lot of passwords, write it down. You can put it on a spreadsheet if you'd like and encrypt it. You can actually encrypt spreadsheets to where it's unhackable, technically, in a way. That way it's way more secure than your typical regular spreadsheet. Because if you're the owner of the company or whatever, and you may have a computer, what if you keep the password Excel sheet in there? Anybody can get into it, open it up, and get all your data.
Okay. Do you see in the foreseeable future, about 5-10 years from now, you think AI is going to be a big security risk?
Big thing? I don't know.
You don't think so?
I don't know. It might.
I think AI is going to be able to help us, but I think it also create a whole new threat.
It could be a double-edged sword. Yeah.
What do you think in 5 years? What do you think
is going to happen? Yeah. I see AI kind of like the robotics thing. I don't know, like if you were in like a manufacturing, like a wholesale thing. Yeah. You know how they're now becoming with, I've seen a company actually using exoskeletons. So if it's too heavy for your body, they'll get a suit.
Yeah, the Army has something like that. Yeah.
And then that helps you lift up, big, heavy stuff without using much of your body's strength. But then you also see those robots that, and even in the automobile industry nowadays, you have those.
Most of it's
it's automated. Yeah, everything's automated. So AI can be it can be scary in that way. I guess if you look at it from a work perspective,
it can be scary, but in the wrong hands too.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's scary, but it's not too scary.
Yeah.
I think in technology, like I don't know if anybody's there with custom builds every 6 months until AMD brings you a brand new processor, so then you always have that battle of learning and digging into new things, and that's what happens with IT, and now with the AI being the biggest thing out there. It is what it is. Go with the flow.
Fun against the Terminators.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not.
All right, so about MSPs and stuff like that for onboarding and offboarding the clients.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us more of an insight on how the process works with current
Sure.
IT? Is it working with them to offboard, and then the onboarding process of it, like how long it could take and the process of it goes?
Sure. So with an onboarding and offboarding, it can depend. It can take a very long time. I'm talking like 3 months, and I'm not saying 3 months because the misconception of
we still got to learn about them too. Right?
Exactly.
Right?
That's the timeline. That's it. 3 months that I'm talking about. Because you can get the misconception, it's going to take you 3 months to do the full onboarding. No, the onboarding is us getting to know with you, the client, or if you're co-managed it's the same deal. Us getting to know with your overhead IT, and plan things out. That way everybody's happy. And, if you run into issues and stuff like that, or whatever the case is, we will know your environment, we will know your environment. That's the beauty of the onboarding. It's kind of like a relationship. You're taking out a girl and you want to get to know her. You think she's cute. It takes a while. You got to kind of, go through the baby steps to get her around and then get together and then finally date. That's kind of an onboarding. You get to know the client. You get to know what they have, the software, learn what they do, what they use. And that way both of the parties and are going to be happy. That's basically it. So it can take anyway. I mean, if it's a small company, it can take a few weeks. I've seen it take a few weeks, but if it's a big company, it can take a while.
It can take a while. It's just really dependent on the size
and if you're offboarding from a current IT and you're coming over, for example, here with us at Impress, we will obviously get hold of your IT.
Yeah, because we work with them.
Absolutely, we want to work with your old IT, regardless if you have issues or not. It is best that we, handle that situation and go over the IT infrastructure. We'll go with whoever the lead tech is or whatever the person who will be, talk over and bring over all that information to us. That's the best scenario that we have, because we don't want to have like a hostile thing to where we're taking over, but it could go that way too.
So we talk about making our clients' lives easier. Do you have any tips for people who want to work with the MSP? Any tips to help us a little bit out? Sure.
I can give you a quick tip. Have you tried restarting your computer? That's one of the biggest things that we ask. And for people who are not in the IT and are watching this podcast, that's kind of a meme. We make
we started it.
Yeah, we make a lot of that comment because honestly,
it fixes a lot of issues. And we've even seen people where they say, hey, my computer's not working, this and that. And okay, and it could be related to that. So then we ask, hey, can you please restart your computer? And even the user may say, oh, I've already restarted it. And then you can see in the timeline that it actually hasn't happened. So we will remote in or whatever and then do it. But make sure that if you're having an issue, and if an IT asks you, if your IT company is asking you to restart the computer, just do it, because it may fix a lot of issues. And it's good to not leave the computer on. If you keep the computer on all the time, it's not doing its process of refreshing and doing all the stuff in the background. So it's a good habit to shut it off if you're done for the day, and then turn it back on when you come in the morning. Or if you leave it on overnight, when you come in the morning, restart the machine. That's another thing. Sometimes I forget when I leave work to home, and the machine's on,
And the first thing I do when I get here at the office is reboot it. Just do a simple restart. It's gonna take you. I mean, nowadays everybody has SSDs.
Well, assuming everyone has SSD.
Assuming
if
everybody
you have
has
an HDD still, then
yeah, if you have a hard drive,
it
can take a little bit, but it's a good habit, guys. That's a good tip that I can give you. And if you have a ticketing board, if your IT has a ticketing board, please send them a ticket. You know, it takes
when you do send a ticket, detailed as possible.
Yeah. We also get tickets sometimes that we'll have to ask, hey, can you elaborate? You know, we're not sure what you mean by that. So if you send a ticket,
it makes it easier to
it makes it easy not only for our lives but for your lives, because you're the ones who's having the issue. You know
we
what
also
I mean?
can resolve it quicker.
Absolutely, because we'll have the insight. You know, if you send me a vaguely information of a problem that's happening with your machine, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna ask you, hey, I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions that you're gonna have to give me some feedback, because the first layout of the issue wasn't really clear in the beginning. But at the end of the day, it works best for both parties. So if you send in a ticket, just email your IT or email us, and make sure that you put a good description of it. You know what the issue is, a good phone number to call you back if you have an office or cell. If you prefer cell, to call you back if we have to call you back. Typically, we'll send you a message. Like, that's how we do it. Excuse me. That's how we do it here at Impress. Basically, we'll send you a message through Screen Connect, our remote software, and it sends you a little icon at the bottom of your taskbar.
Yeah.
It blinks orange or red. And if you miss it, then we'll send you an email. Hey, I've sent you a message on your taskbar. Can you look at the icon blinking? And that's when they open up the window. Because a lot of times what happens is, in the middle of work, you're writing an email, you're in a software or whatever. We send the message, but the message goes behind those screens.
Yeah.
It doesn't pop on top of all this stuff that you're working on right now. So it can take a little longer to connect if you're having issues, but at the end of the day, we'll get with it.
So speaking about like tickets and whatnot, how do you think we compare to other MSPs from what our standpoint is? 'Cause I know our response time is top notch.
That was the first thing I was going to say. So we've seen there was an oil company that we were going to bring over, but when we did the assessment on site, when they scheduled it and we went over, their biggest issue that they had is the IT took literally like 2 weeks. And you know what? For those who don't know, that can be normal, you know? And luckily, we at Impress have the solution to get to you as quick as we can, quicker than those guys. So, and when I say quick, I'm talking tops 30 minutes.
But
that's tops.
Do you actually know our average?
Our average? Yeah, we talk about, so here at Impress, well, and I'm sure it happens with every other company, but you know, we have our Monday meeting and we talk about who's on the board, like who has the most hours of tickets resolved and all that stuff for every tech. And you can see the average time response from us to you, and it's about 5 minutes. That is like,
that's impeccable.
That's impeccable. I mean, 5 minutes to get on a ticket. It's really hard. I think it's really hard to find a company that really gets to you that quick.
Yeah,
that's the average. And if I will say, I think the worst one that we've had.
But I remember it could also be the issue on the ticket too, could be a big factor into it.
Yeah, sometimes we may not respond to you then and there, but we're digging into it already. But typically we'll reply to you or let you know, hey, we're looking into this. We'll get back with you as soon as we can.
Yeah,
or whatever.
But either way, you are going to have a time frame.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the longest that's been there was a day that we were all of us were scheduled to go out, and I think there was only Jonathan was in the back by himself. I came back and there was still a ticket sitting from the morning, so it was probably about 4 hours, which is still, I mean, 4 hours compared to 2 weeks. Come on,
that's a lot.
That is fast.
That's fast.
That is fast, and you don't get to see that.
But that's in worst case scenario too.
Yeah, like I said,
that's worst case.
That was just because that specific day we had a bunch of things scheduled for the day for other stuff happening, other projects, and so we only had him in the back, and he's taking the whole board by himself on top of the other stuff that he has to do. So things are not going to be as responsive. I mean, 4 hours, versus 2 weeks is incredibly quick.
But that's also explained in our onboarding processes.
Absolutely.
So it's nothing out of the normal.
No, yeah. When we do your onboarding, we will go over with the sheet that has everything.
Yeah.
How we do our processes, how we take care of things, how you put in a ticket, how long it's going to take for a ticket, the priority of a ticket. There's a lot of things that go in it. And again, it comes down back to that relationship with the company of knowing both of us and getting to know each other and building that trust relationship.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Okay. So we're running kind of good in time.
Yeah.
I think we can have another maybe 1 or 2 more questions, right?
Sure.
So what about projects and
Yeah, that's another big one.
Yeah. So what defines a project
Mm-hmm.
compared to what's covered in an MSP contract?
Okay. So
that's also good whiskey, by the way.
That's good whiskey. This was recommended by one of our coworkers' wives. How do you say this? I don't even know how to say that name.
Bruce, how do you say that?
How do you say that? Edrador?
Edrador?
This is Edrador, Scotland. So for those who like whiskey,
it's very good.
It's really good. I'll recommend it. It's age 10 years.
And typically I can't sip on whiskey. I have to do shots.
But I like whiskey. You get to, I think, when I was a kid, off topic, this is off of what we're talking about, but real quick, I will almost throw up whiskey. Like when I was a little kid, my grandfather will come and ask me, hey, you want to have like a tiny sip? I would not take whiskey at all. But over time, you get to have that taste and it grows into you. Oh man. But anyway.
Let's go back to projects. On
sure.
So yeah, what defines a project compared to whenever we had to sign up an MSP client? We send them an SOW. We send them the work. What actually defines a project?
The first thing that comes to mind is email migration.
Okay.
So if they may have an environment, we've seen it to where they have an actual hosted server, which is nobody uses that nowadays, and it's not reliable.
Yeah.
If you have one, I will suggest you to get to Microsoft. Yeah, just get to Microsoft Exchange. It's just much better. But if you have one, yes, we will just move you across, and it can take a process. It can be long. If you have like 60 clients, we will literally have to go through each one of the emails, back it up. There's a whole process that, it will take several hours, and maybe the time, I think Jonathan's takes weekends,
Yeah, they take a while.
Yeah. He will start like a Friday night and he will be done a Sunday night.
But then again, migrations are no joke. Migrations.
And not only that, and when you say migration, not only with emails, servers too. Exactly.
Those are critical, and if something goes wrong, it could be catastrophic.
Exactly. So you gotta set your things straight. You gotta have a plan. You gotta know what you're doing and go over it. If something goes sideways, you're gonna have to backtrack and figure things out. But I mean, projects can take, for server migrations, I would say it depends on how much data. I think that's the biggest caveat when it comes to server migrations.
Yeah.
If it has a lot of data, it can take days. I'm talking days, like days, guys, like a lot of days, because you may have a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. And
to move it across to the new server, take whatever it takes. Unless you have like SSDs, that's where I've seen it where it's quick versus the hard drive disks. But that's basically it.
Okay. Well, one final question for it. You have any recommendations on how to be safe on the internet?
Mm-hmm.
Just like it could be home user, it could be a client,
Sure.
anything like that. But you have any recommendations how to
Be
just
safe out there.
Yeah.
I will say, don't what you click. You know, we have a lot of clients that will come in for the break fix.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll have people come in, oh, I talked to a scammer, give them my email, this and that. That's, you know, and they visited Amazon. But you see, like if you use Edge, Bing, it's horrible.
Yeah.
If you use Microsoft Edge, make sure you go to your search engine and change it to Google. And if you're using Google, I will at least recommend to have an ad blocker because it prevents all the sponsored websites advertised at the top that are looking like Amazon, but they're not. And obviously you do Google, you want to go to Amazon. I would say 80% of the people just type in Amazon.
Yeah.
And it sends you to the Google searches.
Yeah.
It doesn't send you to Amazon.com. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest difference. So they end up going to an Amazon scammer's website.
Instead of because a lot of time they will pay for that top
Exactly.
thing, and it will say ad on top.
Exactly. And the ad blocker gets rid of that. Mm-hmm. It will hide all of that malicious stuff out there. The second thing will be like an antivirus.
What about emails though?
For emails, two-factor. Definitely two-factor, yeah.
And also reading the actual URL for the address.
What do you mean? Like
it's like reading on an email coming through. If you make sure like Amazon, you know how they have like so and so Amazon, make sure that actually spells Amazon.
So there's a story. There's a story behind that. One of our clients, they had an employee. They were transferring some money or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, if you're in the IT, you may know about this. Graphus and Spannin. Yeah. Basically, they're backups for emails and all that stuff. And the other one integrates as a security banner at the top. So it tells you, for example, Bruce or you send me an email, you know, Andy@InpressComputers.com.
Yeah.
Make sure it says, like you said, Amazon.com. Make sure your email says that you're receiving Andy@InpressComputers.com. And so in the beginning, you're going to have that blue banner at the top asking you all the time, report safe, report phishing. Mm-hmm. And if you know the sender, you gotta verify. You gotta make sure that it's a correct sender. Mm-hmm. Report as safe, and it'll whitelist it for you. Mm-hmm. In this scenario, the person was going back and forth with some money, and long story short, a hacker was watching these emails. Yeah, and so
didn't they spoof the email as well?
Yeah, and then the hacker intercepted saying, pretending to be the other company, hey, send me the money to this. And the blue banner's up top saying, are you sure this is a safe sender? Da, 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 da. Report for safe, report for phishing. Nothing. The guy sent the money, and we're talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars that were sent up.
Yeah, it's a big scam.
So make sure that if you're going to a website, if you're getting emails, you make sure you know the sender, that is a recognizable sender, you know, because you can be sending money to scammers. If the person that you're dealing with, their email got hacked, which is what happened, you know, you end up making a bigger mistake, making it worse than what it is.
Yeah. So basically, watching what you're doing, knowing where you're clicking, be careful with emails, also keeping Windows or whatever operating system updated.
If another thing about the emails, if you receive an email from a person and you're not sure and you know the sender, I will suggest to call, and don't call the number that they put in the email. If you already have a number that you know, or if, for example, if it's a bank, if it's, I don't know, Chase, and you have the number and you have a representative that you deal with, call that person to verify that it's them sending you the email and not somebody else. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just got to be really careful. And the last thing, if you have backups, make sure that you test the backups. That's another thing that we do over here. because a lot we've seen is to where you have a backup, it runs every day or whatever, and the backup, for all you know, it may not even be working. We've seen that happen to where we take over companies. Oh yeah, the backup was set up, da 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 da, and then we have a look at it. The backup's not even working. You cannot even boot into the operating system. So you got to make sure you test all of your stuff and put it in place. In case of a catastrophe happens, you're prepared for it.
Yep.
So that's basically it.
Oh, well, that's really it for today.
All right. Well, that's it, guys. If you guys have any questions, leave your comments down below. Give us a call at 281-647-9977. Thank you.